What's up guys? Christian here with Parousia Coffee, and today we'll be brewing with, well, we won't be brewing, but I will be giving tips on automated coffee brewers. The reason why we won't be brewing is because all of them are slightly different, but they all should be easy enough to where you press a button and they do what they need to do. Not as much technique or anything involved. But the reason why we're making this video is because some of you guys are probably using these, and that's perfectly okay. But we just want to give some best usage tips that can maximize your flavor from your coffee that you're getting from us. First thing is first, always do coffee with whole beans. When you grind your beans up beforehand or at the store, what happens is a lot more surface area of the bean is in contact with air, and oxygen is what is going to kill and stale out your beans. So the best practice is grind it even right before you're about to brew. So that's all I can really say there is whole beans, keep them whole until you're about to brew your coffee. Next is when it comes to using these brewers, you're going to have filter options. And so one of your options here, and this is just preference, right here I have a paper filter. Other companies will make filters that are metal reusable ones or some kind of mesh form. Those help get a little more oils in your coffee, kind of like a French press. And that's just a preference there. If you want a little more oil and texture to your coffee, that's perfectly okay. Go for one of those reusable filter baskets. But if you want a cleaner cup, the papers are what are going to be used to really get a nice clean cup. So more of the oils will be taken up and absorbed into the paper. Next up is you're just going to have water pouring out into your brewer. One thing about water here is your coffee is only going to taste as good as your water is. And so we do recommend using some form of purified water. Tap water is okay, but actually when you boil it, you're not really boiling out too much. It's still going to taste as tap water brewing with coffee. So we recommend purified water. And actually a bonus is having purified water run through your coffee machines helps maintain the lifespan of your coffee machine, because less things will be scaling up on the inside for corrosion and all those things. So fresh water is always better. Next is, if you already have one of these with a glass carafe, that's okay, I have a glass carafe here. If you already have one of these glass carafe, we recommend drinking it as soon as possible. When these things sit on the hot plate, which does keep your coffee warm, but it kind of cooks it and keeps it bitter. There's actually good flavors that come out from coffee once it's brewed and it has a chance to cool down. If you're in the market for one of these things, because like I said, they're automated, they're convenient if you need that, that's perfectly okay. If you're in the market, we do recommend actually getting one with a thermal carafe. That is like a stainless steel outer shell. They won't have a heated hot plate, but the thermal carafe maintains the heat but doesn't ever keep re-cooking it to keep it hot. So we recommend that for best flavors. It'll avoid a lot of the bitterness that people associate with black coffee. A lot of it just has to do with stale coffee and coffee being reheated over and over again. Okay, last thing that I want to mention is water to coffee ratios. A lot of times you'll have directions that talk about scoops and cups and all these things. Well, I'm here to tell you a lot of those things are very inconsistent. Starting with scoops. Beans are all sorts of shapes and sizes, so one scoop can vary in terms of the amount of coffee beans that are in there. So a very consistent way to brew coffee is with a scale. I'm sure you have a kitchen scale at home. If not, they're very affordable and can be found online or at your local grocery store. But scales help minimize all the variables. That way you get good, consistent coffee day in and day out. So say you're drinking 20 grams of coffee, what the average person's drinking, you're gonna brew for you and 4 of your friends. So that's 5 people right there. So you're gonna take 20, multiply that by 5, and you got 100 grams of coffee you can weigh out. You'll know it every single time. And you grind that up, like we said, fresh right before you brew. And then to get the amount of water, you can even weigh out your water. For every milliliter, 1 milliliter of liquid is just 1 gram of liquid, so you can weigh out. So this ratio we're talking about is for 100 grams of coffee now that you have, you're going to multiply that by 16. That'll get you 1,600 grams of coffee, of water. And then you take that water that you weighed out, pour it into your coffee machine, most likely back in the backside. And then when you use these ratios, when you go from machine to machine, if you use its basic function to brew, you'll get a consistent cup every time. This way, you're not going in with questions or wondering if your coffee is going to taste good for your friends. You'll already know that because you're limiting and reducing all the different variables that can be happening. And once you get used to using this in your coffee pot, you'll notice that there are slots on the machines that have where you can see how much water's in. Once you figure that out, you can always fill up to that line to get your exact water every single time. So you're not weighing water day in and day out as well. Another fun fact is that this thing says it goes up to 14 cups, but did you know that a coffee cup, if you were to measure that out, is different from a US measurement cup? A US measurement cup is 8 fluid ounces. But if you look this up on the internet or find out by trying to fill it up to 8-ounce cups, actually you'll find out you have too much water. A coffee cup on most machines will reference it to being 4 fluid ounces. So this is where the headache can come in, and so we just say weigh out that water, find that consistent water you need in grams, and then get consistent coffee every single time. So I hope you like this video. I know we didn't brew with this because all the brewers are slightly different, but with the same thing in mind is simple and ease of use, and we just help to offer best practices to get good, consistent coffee with fresh beans every single morning.